Well, thank you very much for coming. Welcome to the first Coffee with Leaders that we will have at Monterrey Tech Salud. Everybody is invited from the Sistema Tecnológico Monterrey. And the idea of this concept, we have done it on the past in different areas in Sistema Tecnológico Monterrey, is to have a chat with someone important that can gave us different examples of practices, best practices, or just different perspectives of solving issues related with different problems. And we call it Coffee with Leaders because that's the way it is. It's like having a meeting or a reunion right in your house. So this pretends to be a suite in your house in which you will have a chance to ask specific questions in a very informal but professionally to our speaker. Our friend that is visiting Monterrey right now is Mark Dollhopf. He is the Executive Vice President of Alumni from Yale University. His experience for more than 7 years in Yale and specifically in the alumni associations somehow gave us a really good example of the things that we have to do in Monterrey Tech. And the board of directors of Instituto Tecnológico Monterrey invited him to be part of the board of the development committee. As probably you know, the new system in Monterrey Tech is organized by 4 institutions: Tech Salud, one of them, Tech Virtual, Tech de Monterrey, and Tech Milenio. And there is a board for the 4 institutions, and within that board there are approximately 6, how many did they mention? I guess 6 or 7 committees for different issues. All of those committees are led by one of the board members of the main board group of Sistema Tecnológico Monterrey. And Mark is member of one of those committees because of his experience at Yale University. We had many conversations since 6 months ago that we were invited to form this Vicerrectoría de Egresados. And believe me, all of the conversations that we have had been of a great help for us in order to move really fast on what we're going to be doing. We're going to take advantage of the 70th anniversary of Monterrey Tech, and there are a lot of things that are moving in different areas, but in particular we would like to put attention and try to build for specific needs of our 3 institutions, specifically talking about the alumni of Monterrey Tech. All of the alumni are from Monterrey Tech, even though they are coming from 3 different institutions. So we're going to have one single team to approach all your needs as a Tech Salud. We have Carlos Romero, which is in charge of as director of engagement in the international arena for Monterrey Tech. Salvador Treviño, which is somewhere around, it's on the phone. Well, he will be joining us. He will be responsible for the engagement nationally. And Javier Parra, which is as well right here, he is in charge of all of the support activities that we are going to try to put on your service, like the magazine, the web page, the bulletins that we're going to put together every 15 days, an application on the telephone that will give you information or notice related with the Alumni Association, but trying to put your needs as medicals, as a doctors, or related with the health issues. So anything that you think that it may help to formalize the engagement, let's put it that way, with the Monterrey Tech, please let us know, because we will do it on the best way we can. Now, Mark, I asked Mark to be part of this Café with Leaders, specifically to talk about the importance of service. When I visited him and he explained what they did, what they do since many, many years ago, the day of service somehow puts me in a real perspective of something that we just have to be doing in Mexico. Especially because we have had much more opportunities that many or millions of Mexicans that didn't have the chance even to go to the school. And the importance of the service, especially when talking to the medical school, it's of relevance. So I would like to ask Mark, what is the importance of the service from the perspective of Yale, and what you have done, which you think it can be done in our perspective in Mexico, especially on the circumstances that we're facing right now?
Well, first of all, welcome. I am so glad to be here. It is 20 degrees and snowing in New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale is. So I'm going to stay here in the sun as long as I can and enjoy this beautiful facility. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this is a hospital. I came in and I asked, where's the concierge lounge? I would like to come here to be sick, I think. So at any rate, it's a beautiful facility, and thank you, Javier, for the invitation and the opportunity to come here and talk to you about service. So I really have, well, let me talk about service in particular, and then maybe I'll talk in general about alumni relations. But the notion of service goes to the very founding of many of the oldest universities in the United States. So Yale, as Harvard and Princeton and Dartmouth and Brown and what you know as the traditional Ivy League, were actually started as religious institutions. And in Yale in particular was started in 1701, and the mission said, the purpose of this college shall be to instruct youth in service to church and state. Youth in service to church and state. Now, there were many ministers trained in those days, religious leaders, and many academics. The schools were very small at that time. But the notion of service was core to the mission of the institution. And over the years, there have been many examples of very famous Yale alumni who have lived up to this ideal of service. We like to point back to a patriot during the Revolutionary War by the name of Nathan Hale. And if any of you are students of American history, you might remember that Nathan Hale was captured by the British when the British were invading New York City, and he was captured as a spy and hung. And right before he was hung, he said, "I regret that I have but only one life to give for my country." You probably know that it's a very famous statement, at least to school children in America, and perhaps famous to anybody who's a student of American history. He was a Yale alum. He was only 21 years old. He had been recently graduated from Yale University. And even though that is his most famous statement, he also famously said, and it's carved on the base of our large bell tower on the Yale campus, "I wish to be useful." And the entire quote goes on, "I wish to be useful for the greater good, and how it is that I might give the privilege of my circumstances back to the community that nurtured me." And this idea of service has been pronounced by most all of our presidents since the 1700s of Yale University. This notion of not only is it important to be educated and to come away enlightened and equipped to be good citizens in the world, but you should be compelled to give back to society because of the education that you receive. It's not coincidental that many Yale presidents, many presidents of the United States went to Yale. It's no coincidence that I don't know the exact number, but there were a huge number of alumni who were signers of the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and who served as senators and congresspeople. It's in the tradition, right? So I think, to be honest about it, in the 1900s, many of the Ivy League institutions, when they no longer became religious institutions, lost their way a bit. After the Gilded Age, the early 1900s, the Ivy League became the bastion of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant men. Almost all the schools were only male. They did not accept women in most of the 1900s until 1970 at Yale. And the purpose of going to college changed. It was to not only gain an education, but to establish connections. It's a far more prominent idea these days. And we note especially that young alumni are interested in volunteer service. I don't know if you noticed that here in Monterrey, in the culture here, but this resonates. So we have dedicated a Yale Day of Service. It's one day in the year, but it's not meant to be the only day. It's meant to be give focus to the idea of service. And this has become an important part of our Alumni Association network. So Yale sponsored a Day of Service last year, or this I think is the year before. It's generally the third Saturday in May. Last year we had 250 cities around the world where Yale alumni had established local partnerships with nonprofit organizations, and we just urge people to get out and volunteer for their communities. Now that's set in the larger context of Day of Service, and there are many other programs that you well know that we're talking about here with Monterrey Tech, about how service is integrated beyond just volunteering for local nonprofit organizations. That's a long answer.
And how many people goes to those service? Out of the 250 cities, do you have a...
We had about 5,000 alumni involved last year. It's only 4 years old, this program.
Okay.
So we're growing every year. People register. We get volunteer leaders in all the cities to establish the relationships with local nonprofit organizations.
Okay. So our idea in Sistema Tecnológico Monterrey is perhaps try to do our date of service starting this year, and try to convey the idea for all of the institutions, all of the associations that we have 80 nationally and internationally both, all of our offices abroad, all of the student groups that are organized as associations, put it that way, to accept to participate on the day of service. We're going to try to promote 3 or 4 concepts so that we can focus on an idea, but the whole concept is to be coherent to one of our main objectives as an institution, which is the human service. I mean, to be responsible on that area. If we can get it in that end, seems to me that we can have similar amount of people related with this service, and send an important message to the community that the importance of service is, it goes beyond of what you are doing as a personal or as a professional.